How do you respond to "I've dated a black guy before. It's not for me"? LMAO, this is always so weird to hear. I've heard something like this from 5 different women so far. One time, it was a girl that my black friend liked, and she said I had a black abusive boyfriend, so I won't date another black guy. Another time, I was talking to a group of friends about preferences in people, and one girl says I've dated a black guy before. It's not for me. Like, WTF does that even mean? Lol, I just found this so ridiculously funny and odd. Does anyone have any thoughts on statements like these? Edit, just to clarify, I find this weird because when you say that you don't like certain types of people, it's normally categorized by personality, appearance, maturity, financial stability, etc. These things aren't inherently tied to a specific race except appearance in most cases. But then, why would you even date someone that you aren't attracted to in the first place? I refused to date anyone named Brian after a few bad Brian experiences. If it helps, my ex had a black coworker who was only attracted to white women. His sister was repulsed and said he can play with them but he has to marry a black woman and grow up. She would not date white dudes. Her words were "colors don't mix and we have to keep our family tree black and clean." Which I personally just found racist rather than a sexual preference. But WTF do I know? Cool. I dated, people are awful, can't honestly recommend it. I see. If you'll excuse me, I think I'm going to go get a drink. Then I leave, go talk to someone else, and never come back. But, you know we're not all the same, right? I had a black abusive boyfriend, so I won't date another black guy. Well, hopefully none of the next races are abusive or she'll run out of men to date. LMAO. I have a feeling she won't hold those standards with every race though. A really strong feeling. Cultural and social differences can be hard to overcome in a relationship. How do you respond to "I've dated a black guy before. It's not for me"? I wouldn't respond at all. I'd just move on. Most people have their own reasons for their preferences. This is some tip-notch bait though, op. You don't? Who cares what they are attracted to or not? I'm black myself. And who cares? For everyone who doesn't like you, there are some who will. I don't date black girls or Spanish girls because every single one I've tried to date had dramatic families that weren't worth dealing with. They're talking about the culture most likely. I'd probably just say what a curious thing to say and stare at them inquisitively in silence. Had this, but in reverse. I knew a girl who dated a guy, he was white and Asian mix. They broke up mutually, so one day I just kind of flirted with her. She said I don't date anyone who is white anymore. Only black guys. Asked her why and she said because their dicks are bigger. Apparently every black guy is big, no exception in her mind. Just laughed and said okay, and she got cheated on so many times. What's with all the racism in the comments? They don't want you, bro. There is no comeback. Racists aren't for me, just the typical stereotyping a population based off of one experience. Facial expression of silent judgment. I don't even need to look at the comments to know that a lot of people will be excusing something they in any other context would call racism by saying, people are allowed to have preferences. I think that's fine. Why would someone push further? Say I'm actually giving 1/28 Cherokee on my maternal grandmother's side. That's a strange logic. How did eumelanin in the basal layer of the epidermis affect the relationship? People usually base their preferences off experiences. Sometimes it's ignorant, racist, prejudiced, etc. But everyone is entitled to their preferences. I'd rather be turned down right away if I'm not somebody's type. Because I'm sure as hell not trying to convince them. That's so interesting. I listened to the opinion of a white woman once. Didn't work out for me, so now I ignore you. No, but seriously. I feel you OP and I hate this shit. I have a friendship that ended in part over this. There are billions. No joke. Billions of us. You had a bad experience with one person and now billions of people are a potential threat in your mind? Yikes. And you hang out with people who validate that? Double yikes. It's hard work, but you've got to just try and go where you're wanted. Love who loves you. Tune out the rest and their preferences. Don't. They obviously aren't someone you want to be with at that point. Why do you care what they think or do when you leave? I wouldn't give any shit to those who have suffered abuse. Abuse isn't an excuse for racism. But our minds make these associations that can trigger mental trauma if something reminds you of your abuser. You don't really get to control when or how you get PTSD. But obviously you can let a guy down without basically saying sorry. When I see you, I think of rape. And saying it like that is a bit shitty and tactless. Otherwise, if it's just a yeah, I dated a black guy before. No thanks, I feel like the only appropriate response is goodbye. People arguing that the question is describing a person's preferences. That's not what this is. Yes, a person is entitled to their preference. But to say your one bad experience with a black person is what you attach to all potential suitors who are black. That's fucked up. Them being white or black wasn't what messed it up for you unless you're prejudiced. So why use their skin color as an answer? Some of you aren't seeing the real problem this question is asking. I'd recreate that old Tumblr meme, me shoving breadsticks into my purse. Sorry, I have to go. Don't force it. These folks seem close-minded at best. Move on and know when you meet the one they'll think this is just as ridiculous as you. Okay, and move on. Tons of black women aren't interested in white guys, and that's fine. People are allowed to have dating preferences no matter how illogical they may be. Ah, good ol' racism. I get the logic. I dated an Indian chick. But the cultural differences were too big. I now won't date any Indians again. Then I dated an Italian. But I can't handle that much pasta in my diet. So no more Italians for me. Russian drinking. Lebanese too conservative. Is this true for all of them? Of course not. But there's plenty of women in the world. This is just a really easy filter to apply, and I know I'm missing out on a few good ones there. But meh. This is excluding physical appearances, obviously, like no blondes or gingers or religions. No way. I'm gonna be with someone who won't eat pork. Some people hear racism so often they don't even register it as racism. These women would probably unironically also say, I'm not racist. I've dated a black guy before. I always say, well, I don't date assholes. I'm a BW, and YT guys, like strangers, will come up to you and tell you they don't date BW, and it's like, thanks. I never asked. And it's always the ugliest of dudes too. It's a power thing, emo. You mean that guy wasn't for you? I view it more as emotional immaturity and mental underdevelopment than racist, but then again, racists fit both of those things. Personally, I don't expect everyone to want to date me. They can filter me out for whatever reason works for them. And the clearer they are about it, the better. The world has billions of people to choose from. That said, I'd not be friends with someone who makes such a comment. I don't respond because I don't give two shits who anyone wants to date. Lumping an individual into a group based on assumptions stemming from race is racist. So there you go. Facts are facts. If nobody asked them, if nobody directly asked them, you have the personal courage and moral tenacity to say, plainly, and as cold and factual as you like, who asked? Drop it like a hammer.